What's the reason you're so keen to have like a conversation that is deeply rooted in the laws of our country without understanding the laws of our country?
Well, I don't get your point. Like, do you disagree with his deportation or something?
Yes, inherently, because he wasn't given due process. I would have to. If you don't, then you're saying that the Fifth Amendment doesn't matter.
With deportation,
Due
the
process.
lack, yeah, due process.
I
Yeah.
mean, we don't even need to talk about like we can if you want to have like a discussion about it, we totally can. But we don't need to talk about the constitutionality of it. It's already been ruled unconstitutional. So that's really. I don't know if you saw the conversation I had with the last guy. This is the funniest conversation to have. People be like, it's not unconstitutional, and then I'm like, oh wow. I guess you don't know how to read because we already have three different SCOTUS rulings now saying that it is. I don't know what the fuck to tell you anymore.
Yeah, I guess I've only read the Garcia ruling, which it was only like an administrative error, but it didn't lack due process necessarily at all. Just, well, the administrative error was like lack of warning, but yeah, I mean,
So,
maybe
but like
different SCOTUS ruling.
one of the things that you kind of like you're. I don't want to. I don't want to assign bad faith. I don't want to use the word sweeping, but there's a bit of sweeping that goes on there when you say like, well, it was just lack of lack of warning, which we call notice. To say like, oh, there was lack of notice, so it's not really a due process violation. It's just an administrative error. No, lack of notice is a due process violation. Part of due process is notice. The notice requirements.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Yeah. So
I can
when you
see
say
that.
like lack of notice is absolutely a due process violation, 100%.
Yeah, it's just like not in my eyes. It's like even. I mean, the conclusion of the ruling was to effectuate and facilitate, right, like his return, but it would just result in the same thing, just with like a little, just more taxpayer money and a little more fluff to it, but it wouldn't change anything at all. Especially based on our constitution, it's not like the 14th, like due process does not like require like an attorney or anything of the sort that you would think of like proper citizenry, like due process. Just not the same thing. um so I just don't, I don't think that that's like a tremendous deal, and I think that we've spent probably a lot of money on uh mitigating that issue and like the public's reaction to it.
Sure. I would
But
say what I would say in response to that argument, one of the more common ones was just like, but it's a waste of money to give due process. I don't know if there is a dollar amount you could put on the Constitution or protecting the Constitution that I wouldn't be willing to pay. I don't know if there's a price can put on the Constitution that I wouldn't be willing to pay. Honest to God, like if you said like I mean like we go to wars and we die to protect the Constitution, right? So I don't think there's a price you can put on it where I would say, that's too much. So the tax argument's kind of fucking stupid in my opinion. It's like, well, it costs money to give people due process. I don't care. The money, I don't give a shit. I'll pay the taxes. I don't care. I'll die if I have to. I'll do anything. It's the Constitution. It's the founding of it's our founding document, the principle of our country.
but even like due process in that case is not even like necessitating, based on precedent, not even necessitating a judge. So it's like
Well, it
I
does.
don't I
It
don't know
does
what.
necessitate a judge, but
I don't think it does. No, I'm pretty sure it actually doesn't.
okay.
If it doesn't require an attorney, it definitely, I don't think, necessitates even a judge. And
When you say
that's like the,
what do you mean when you say doesn't require an attorney?
well, yeah, it's in precedent, no illegal immigrant that is experiencing, by the way, they need due process, but that due process does not require or necessitate an appointed attorney. We don't
Right, but
facilitate.
do you know why that is? That you can't like that claim is nebulous and
It's the
meaningless by
concept.
itself.
Well, yeah, it's because of precedents set on our constitution.
No.
And this is also what you were pointing
Well,
out. Like,
kind of. That is kind of why it is constitutional.
no,
It is. It's just,
absolutely, it's
it's
fine.
due to the Sixth Amendment. I'm asking you, why is it that if you were to get arrested, and say you were like, I don't know, I don't know anything about your income level, but let's say, for instance, you were like very, very poor, like you were making like 10K a year, very poor,
Yeah, yeah.
and you got arrested, on maybe like a murder charge, something important, something where it's like, God damn, I
It's the
really need an
first.
attorney. You would be
Yeah.
provided an attorney, but if an illegal immigrant was in deportation proceedings, they would not. All I'm asking you is tell me why. What's the difference between those two things? Why
Yeah,
is it
so
that you get
I'm
one and they
not.
don't?
I can give you a argument, and I'm not sure if this is what a constitutional attorney would give you, but I can tell you what the 14th Amendment says, and it's born or naturalized, and this is codependent with jurisdiction thereof. So it's born or naturalized, and so this means either you're or not even. It means you're born or naturalized. So both of those are like one object, and then and also it needs to be with jurisdiction thereof. So this is why like diplomats don't like their born kids on the soil are not
Yeah.
citizens. But yeah, I would assume that it falls within there, but there might be
Yeah.
other
So
reasons.
this is why before you try to have like a conversation like this where like the specifics are important, you need to have a command of how the law works, because that was
Sure, I mean,
unbearably wrong. The
right,
reason
okay.
the reason is because immigration proceedings are done in a civil context. You are not required to be appointed a lawyer in a civil context. For instance, if I were to get in a car accident with somebody and I caused
Yeah,
a
I
lot of
understand
damage
what
to their
civil
car,
is.
and if they were to sue me, I would not have the right to an attorney. You have to pay for it out of pocket. Immigration is the same way. Those are civil context cases. So the person in question, the person being technically are being sued by the government
Yeah,
for
no, I
over
get what civil
deportability.
laws.
So
Yeah,
it's
I get it.
that's the difference. So when you go into this whole, it has nothing to do with the 14th Amendment. It's the Sixth.
Okay, got it.
So no, the reason they don't have the all this comes back to your claim that like it doesn't even require a judge. If it doesn't require a lawyer, how can it require a judge? Same thing. Like a civil, if I get sued, a civil case has it. There's going to be a judge, but there's not necessarily the right to attorney there. Same thing in
Sure.
immigration cases. There's a judge. It's not always an Article 3 judge. For instance, if you're in immigration court, if you're being charged under the INA as removable, it's going to be an immigration judge. Whole different
But
ballgame.
I think AEA bypasses that.
The AAA doesn't bypass due process, but yes, the actual like
It
immigration court
bypasses like
proceedings. Yes, yes,
investigation.
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So
Now, so here's a I
I mean, I get the Supreme Court also
correct
ruled.
me if I'm wrong on this part. Because I very
Supreme
well.
Court ruled that he
Well,
wasn't
hold on.
even under AEA.
I need to clarify something before we continue.
Yeah, I was helping your point, by the way.
Huh?
I'm pretty sure the Supreme Court actually in the Garcia ruling argued that he wasn't under AEA, so he needed to be
Okay, so
CMI.
that's the question I was going to ask. I was like, weren't we talking about Garcia? Isn't that what was happening?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, because I
Because
was
he
saying
was under AEA.
Garcia wasn't removed under the Alien Enemies Act, so
Well, I
yeah,
think he was technically,
he
but the
wasn't.
Supreme Court. Well, I don't. I think the Supreme Court specifically in their conclusion argued that he wasn't under the AEA. So I think that they probably removed him based on that.
Again, this is like I don't know what like I don't want to do this because it feels mean, and you've been very very nice so far. But it is necessary if you're going to have a legal debate. It is necessary that you understand the legal the legal implications of things. You must have a firm grasp on the law to have this conversation, because we can't progress if you just say stuff that's
Oh, yeah,
wrong
yeah.
over and over and over and over and over. And it's not even that I would expect you to be right. You're not aware. But that's fine. But then just don't come up here and try to have this talk.
Well, so you're saying he wasn't removed
No, he
under
wasn't
AEA?
removed under the AEA. If it were the case that you removed somebody illegally, and then you were sued over that illegal removal, one of the first things that's going to happen is you are going to cite to your authority to remove that person. When it comes for instance, in JGG versus Trump, those people were all removed under the Alien Enemies Act. So when you look in the filings and the government has to cite their authority to remove those people, they cite to the Alien Enemies Act. The weird thing about Garcia's case is they didn't cite to anything. There was like,
Right.
oh, we actually don't have authority. We didn't. Like, it was the acknowledgement that they didn't have the authority to remove him, especially to El Salvador, was instant. Like, they were like, actually, we removed him under no law, and he also had a withholding order from El Salvador, and we did it. So there needs to be a firm grasp that you have on the legal
So
implications of
why
these
would they
things.
write that? Have you read the actual briefing that the Supreme Court issued? Why would they?
In Garcia's case, yes,
Yeah, why would they reference he specifically is not under the AEA?
because he was the only person that was sent to El Salvador with the batch of Alien Enemies Act detainees that wasn't under the Alien Enemies Act. So he
So they
was
just
unique.
randomly
They were bringing it up because he was very unique in the sense that he was sent on the same plane as 200 something other Alien Enemies Act deportees, but he wasn't deported under the Alien Enemies Act. So he's like this lone wolf in this pack of people that are being deported under this law, but he wasn't being.
But it's weird because like even Trump in his like public press conferences has referenced him being sent there because of the AEA.
Yeah, but also Trump has
There's a
referenced
whole tattoo
Trump
thing.
was also asked if he had to follow the Constitution. He said, "I don't know. I leave those questions to my lawyers." So when
But again,
when you hear Trump talking about legal implications of things, like, do you believe him or you do not? Because if you believe him, that means you also
Well,
believe that he genuinely, full heartedly does not believe or does not know if
believe,
he has to follow the Constitution. So you got to pick
but
one.
are you telling me that him referencing his tattoos that he also didn't know the MS-13 above the actual tattoos were photoshopped, which obviously that was really dumb. But you're saying you really believe that they didn't deport him based on the AEA, even though they're referencing this in a public interview?
So then my question to you would be, if that's the line you want to go down, like why did Trump mention it? If that's the line of question, sure. If that's the line you want to go down, then it necessitates you have some answer to why the government never once in any filing claimed that they used the Alien Enemies Act to deport him. You'd have to have a logical answer to that. If you don't, then the argument goes out the window.
Well, I mean, again, I guess you've looked into this more than I have, but I still don't think that, but specific to every single person that they've deported under AEA, they've outlined, they don't even, no, actually, wait, I'm right about this. They don't even have to effectuate to the government why they're deporting someone, even if it's under AEA. They don't have to say it's under AEA.
Is that what I said?
Well, I mean, but I think that's how AEA is written, is they don't even have to define that they're deporting someone under AEA.
No,
unless
what I said.
Hold on. Unless it's contended by.
You want me to just? I know you want me to hold on, but you are just wasting time arguing with an argument that I never made. But I didn't make that claim. That's my. Do you understand what's happening? Are you not like? Are you having a hard time following the conversation? No, I'll tell you. This is what I said. If you deport somebody and you are sued over that deportation on the basis of it being unconstitutional, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to stake out what your authority was to do it. I'm not saying pre-deportation you have to stake your claim.
Sued. It's not.
Who wasn't sued? Who wasn't sued?
When the Supreme Court makes a ruling about this, it's not someone being sued. Do you realize that?
Oh man, yeah, you're just lost.
Wait, you think Garcia's Supreme Court case was someone being sued?
What's the name of the case?
Garcia versus whatever, or vice versa?
Versus Nome.
Sure. Do you think someone was being sued?
What do you think's happening there?
I mean, maybe earlier courts were. I don't know.
I know you don't know. Why do you just say shit you don't know?
Well, tell me, who is being sued?
The federal government. The federal government is being sued. You can just look at the filings.
Okay, who are they being sued and for what amount?
What is the name of the case?
You just said Garcia versus Nome.
Okay, so the federal government is being sued on behalf of Abrego Garcia.
But for what amount? Is it civil? Is it criminal? What is it?
Is the remedy for all civil matters money every time, always?
Well, it could be punishment.
It's relief. That's the answer to the question. He's seeking relief. Relief can be financial. If you want to be made whole, say someone did something to you that caused you to lose money. No, it wouldn't always. The relief in this case is that he's suing to be returned.
Okay. So,
and also in a civil context, there is no what punishment. You don't go to jail in civil court. It could be financial, but
do you not think financial remedy is
he could sue for damages after this. This case, the relief being sought is his release from custody in El Salvador.
Okay. Well, sure. It's him being sued, I guess you could say.
It's the federal government being sued. Yes.
Okay.
Why is this like why do we have to keep doing this where you just like say shit that's wrong? What's the reason you're so keen to have like a conversation that is deeply rooted in the laws of our country without understanding the laws of our country?
Well, I don't get your point. Like, do you disagree with his deportation or something?
Yes, inherently, because he wasn't given due process. I would have to. If you don't, then you're saying that the Fifth Amendment doesn't matter. Unless you want to caveat by saying, like, I wouldn't disagree with the deportation of this person, but I do disagree with the methods that were employed to deport this person. Then I guess you'd be saying, I still support the Fifth Amendment, but I don't like this guy and I want him gone. Like, you can make that claim if you want. But if you're saying,
we should effectuate and facilitate his return,
I think the Supreme Court ordered that.
That's what they ordered.
The Supreme Court. Well, that's not what they ordered technically.
That is.
It's not.
What did they order then?
I simply don't understand how you can have the amount of confidence you have with the lack of knowledge you have. The Supreme Court didn't order anything. The Supreme Court ordered that the government follow the district court's order. When they're not saying at no point did the Supreme Court say facilitate and effectuate his return. The Supreme Court said, "Hey, the district court gave you an order. You should follow it."
Oh wait, maybe that was the district court that literally said that.
They originally said facilitate and effectuate. It went to the Supreme Court. Yes. The Supreme Court. But you just said the Supreme Court ordered that. No, they didn't.
Okay, sorry. They upheld the district court's ruling.
Yes.
So
with one caveat, the one thing they ordered the district court to do was to clarify the meaning of the word. They wanted the judge to clarify what she meant by effectuate. And so in response to that, the judge just removed that word from her order. She's like, fine, fuck it, I'll just take it out. I don't really feel like clarifying. Mainly because that could have ended up being a really contentious issue. So she went the safe route and just took it out.
Okay, so I mean, at the end of the day, is it that like we both know if he comes back, he's going to get sent back there. So I don't know what the.
Well, he very well could get sent back there, but then your claim that your claim that he definitely would get sent back there would have to be if okay. This is a big caveat that needs to be laid out. Assuming let's say he came back, right? Assuming this time we're going to follow all of our laws, we're going to follow the laws the proper way. There is a chance that he could be sent back there for sure. There's also a chance that he could not be sent back there. But the problem is I can't. It'd be really hard for me to get into that conversation with you because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I don't know what to do.
So you think there's a good chance that if it's effectuated that he comes back, that he's going to stay here? Is that your point of view?
I didn't say stay here. You said sent back there, and I said there's a chance he could be sent back or a chance he could not be sent back. At no point did I say anything about staying here. He could very well and very easily be sent somewhere else. All it would take is a country to agree. We could ask. There's dozens of countries we could ask, like, hey, can we deport this guy to you? And all it would take is one saying yes, and then boom, he'd be gone.
Okay. Wait. So do you disagree with blanket tariffs in terms of renegotiating?
Blanket.
In terms of renegotiating.
Wait, hold on. We'll have the you came in here with wanting to have the economic discussion, so I will, but we're not pivoting yet.
Okay, that's fine.
Simply because your contention was that I don't even know if your contention. What was your contention? Were you trying to argue that the deportations weren't unconstitutional at all, or that they were, but you just didn't care that they were?
I think the only violations of our Constitution, at least that I've read, and there's the whole thing with By the way, after reading the 14th Amendment, I actually believe that there's great contention with the idea of birthright citizenship. If you read the 14th Amendment, I think that we could do away with that. I also, my biggest thing is like, I'm very anti-Israel. So like, I'm very against and I don't know if they've actually been deported technically, but the detainment of people on college campuses or not that are protesting against specifically one nation being Palestine. I very much disagree with that.
All right, so I'm gonna rope you back in. Just what is your contention with the Alien Enemies Act deportations? And you can lump Abrego Garcia in there if you want to. What's your problem with my position on that?
Well, I mean, I think we're pretty much. I think you were getting into the fact that I was wrong about the specifics in terms of like the legality around the situation, which is fine. But I don't. I mean, I don't have the statistics on how many foreign or like undocumented people, which I think we should. I love undocumented people, but I don't have the statistics on how many undocumented people are actually posing a threat and / part of whatever the word is on TikTok. And so if it's actually a threat, then definitely AEA applies. So yeah, I don't have. I don't think that we should be sending them to this specific place. But that's also for the country we're deporting them to decide. So
okay.
I mean, I don't have.
So are you saying we don't actually disagree at all? Like you do think that at least this first batch of deportations were done unconstitutionally, but you're okay with using the Alien Enemies Act, but maybe you just
I think it was constitutional. It was definitely constitutional.
Okay, so then we don't agree at all. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, well then I guess we can't pivot yet. Are you okay? I guess this would be where
Like,
we'd
what
have to
was
start.
unconstitutional
Yeah,
about this?
we'd have to start. I already know the starting point we're gonna have to, because you said that. I think you have that opinion based on the usage of the alien enemy. Is that correct?
Well, just from what I've read from attorneys that are the constitutional attorneys, yeah, that it seems like it's appropriate slash a little bit ambiguous, and it's up for
Okay.
interpretation right
So
now.
you are.
I also don't think that you were arguing the House is corrupt, and I don't think the House is corrupt.
Okay, we can circle back to that if you want. So you citing to constitutional attorneys that you've read feels off to me, and I'll tell you why. To say that and to take them as a point of authority necessitates the idea that you believe random constitutional attorneys that you've read, but you don't believe the Supreme Court. Because it's so weird that, like, it's so weird to hear the argument of, like, I actually don't think these were unconstitutional when we already have, like, 3 different rulings stating that they were. So that means even with a 6-3 conservative majority, you're still unwilling to believe the Supreme Court when they rule in a way you don't like. I don't understand. What's up with that?
Well, again, are they ruling on? And just correct me if I'm wrong here. Is one of those rulings on the mass deportation of like 1,000 people?
No, the rulings I'm specifically talking about the alien enemies, the deportations that were done, sending people to El Salvador via
Right.
the Alien Enemies Act.
But I think there were only a select few cases that were targeted at individuals, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
When you like select cases targeted, what do you mean by that?
Like the cases you're referencing are targeted, they're cases involving specific people.
Well, the fact pattern is going to be the same for all of these people. So everyone that was deported under the Alien Enemies Act, the first batch of people on March 15th, the fact pattern in terms of their treatment is going to be the same.
No, again, though, like their actual deportation is what's in question, and if it's only a select few people versus the thousands, I think at this point a couple thousand, right, of people that have been deported, clearly it's
deported, deported at all? Is that what you're saying? Like there's been way more than a couple thousand people deported in general. I think we've deported like a fair few people.
But under AEA,
no, we haven't gotten to the thousands under the Alien Enemies Act. No, I think it's still probably it's still probably like sub 300 at this point.
Sub 300 under the AEA.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Sure, I guess I'll concede that. I haven't read enough about that, but I would argue that it's probably used in a constitutional way. Otherwise, Trump would be impeached again.
Okay. Can I read something to you real quick?
Yeah, sure.
All right. This is a excerpt from the majority opinion in the case JGG versus Trump. Okay. This is SCOTUS.
JGG?
The pseudonym for one of the people that were deported. One of the people deported under the Alien Enemies Act.
Got it.
Bear in mind, when I say that this necessitates some knowledge of the way that cases get titled. So JGG is the named plaintiff, but this is a class action suit. So there are multiple people encompassed in this. Okay. All right. I'm going to read this excerpt. All right. Quote, we have held that an individual subject to detention and removal under that statute, referring to the Alien Enemies Act, is entitled to judicial review as to questions of interpretation and constitutionality of the act, as well as whether he or she is in fact an alien enemy 14 years of age or older. Today's order and per curiam confirm that the detainees subject to removal orders under the Alien Enemies Act are entitled to notice and an opportunity to challenge their removal. Importantly, as the court stresses, the court's disagreement with the dissenters is not over whether the detainees receive judicial review of all the transfers. All 9 members of the court agree that judicial review is available. So when they say, all 9 of us are in full agreement that if you're targeted under the Alien Enemies Act, like, you maintain your due process rights, you can challenge your removal. And then the Trump administration's argument is, they can't challenge the removal. We can do this summarily. And then
that's true.
And then so I don't understand how you're in here saying that those deportations were not unconstitutional.
No, that's how it's worked. Absolutely. Like, Trump's right in that case. The Supreme Court's wrong. I don't know how else to put it.
Okay.
Plenty of presidents have disagreed with the Supreme Court.
So you would say he's in violation of this. He's violating the Supreme Court order right now, then? That's what you'd say.
Well, I mean, even the way the way that read, they're saying again, I can't get. I'm not reading what you're looking at, but
Okay.
what it said essentially was they're entitled to some judicial review, but that's not even how AEA is written. And AEA was deemed constitutional, first of all. Secondly, it doesn't require some like judicial review for every that the whole point of AEA is to
I know.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see what you're. Oh man, I just. Oof, you're a hard one. I don't know. I don't know how to talk to you, and I don't mean this in a mean way. The problem is like and I've said it over and over. You have like the worst understanding of the legal system I've maybe ever seen in a conversation like this. Your argument right now is that the alien. I know you're not going to see it this way. So I mean, you can disagree. It's fine. But what is happening in this conversation is your baseline argument, if we took away all the fluff and boiled it down, is that you believe in your heart of hearts that the Alien Enemies Act, a law that was passed by Congress, can violate the Constitution. That's what you think.
It was an executive order.
No. Okay. Well. Okay. All right. Now I don't know what to do with you anymore. Now
Is it not an
the amount of the amount of just confident wrongness is blowing me out. Is just blowing my mind out of the back of my head. No.
So
what is Act? Alien Enemies Act. Act necessitates legislation. It was passed in 1798 by Congress.
Okay, great. Sure.
The Alien Enemies Act proclamation that Trump issued is a statutory requirement of the Alien Enemies Act. Before you use that piece of legislation, the president must
hold on.
Issue a declaration.
I'm pretty sure it was an executive order, actually, initially.
Okay. I'm going to say this. I'm going to run this back one more time. We'll see if we can get it. One of the statutory requirements to use the Alien Enemies Act for the president to use the powers of the act is to issue a proclamation stating a couple of things, one of which being the person that you're trying to target, or the group of people that you're trying to target with the under the act. The Alien Enemies Act itself is a law that grants the president very broad immigration powers.
So he was citing the EO based on the Alien Enemies Act that was passed through Congress.
Yes, the Alien Enemies Act is the law, and then to use that law, let's try to boil it down like this. For the president to be able to take that law and use it, use the powers that it grants, one of the statutory requirements is that he must issue the proclamation that you're talking about. He must say, hey, I'm going to use this law, and these are the people I'm going to use it against.
Got it.
That's one of the statutory requirements, meaning it's baked into the law that he has to do that first, and then he can use the powers that it grants. But what your argument boils down to is that you think that a law or the usage of a law, the way you use it, because here, this is another thing. I don't have time to teach you all these like weird legal things. Like a law can be the law itself, statutorily, i.e., the way it's written, the way like just pen to paper, the way the words are laid out, the way it is written, can be constitutional. We've seen dozens of instances of this through time. Of like, okay, yeah, that law is written constitutionally, but the way that you're using it, what you're trying to do with that law, is unconstitutional. So when you say, well, the Alien Enemies Act is already has been deemed constitutional, I wouldn't argue against that because I know that to be true. Yes, the Alien Enemies Act itself is constitutional, but your usage of it can be unconstitutional.
So the law doesn't have to be constitutional, by the way. But yeah, no,
it depends on. I mean, it depends on how you want to like semantically have that conversation. Technically, Congress can pass a law that is unconstitutional and use the powers granted by it.
But executive orders
everything contained within, or everything you use that law for, can be unconstitutional, and it can stay so long as no one ever appeals to the Supreme Court for their ruling on it.
Right, but the larger point is that
laws do have to be constitutional, by the way.
Any EO that obviously that is issued, even referencing a legislative decision or like a law, can be deemed unconstitutional. And if it is, and the president keeps acting on that, he can be impeached for that. If the president is subverting the Constitution, that's the most easy way to impeach a president. Actually,
sure. But you'd have to have, that necessitates the political willpower to do it. You'd have to
you think our
actually do it.
Corrupt, then? You think the House is corrupt?
I think there's enough people, there's enough Republican congressmen that want to slurp up Trump as much as they can, and they would never go against him.
That's great. He's already been impeached twice, but okay. If you think
he was impeached twice, when was he impeached twice?
His first term.
What was what was the congressional layout like then? Not just raw numbers, but what was the general disposition of Congress at the time?
I guess not in favor of, like, is your point like the percentages of Republican to Democrats? Like,
No, my point
what's
is
your
that
point?
at the time he was impeached, the first two impeachments, he didn't have the stranglehold that he has on Congress now.
But how do you interpret that strangle? Like, why do you think he has a stranglehold?
So I look to his actions. I look to what he does to people that within his own party that disagree with him or that come out in opposition to him. And would they get crushed? Is the ultimate answer. We could just look to history. Every Republican that has come out in opposition to Trump has been politically decimated. How many Republicans are still in government right now that have previously gone up against Trump?
I think probably a lot, actually.
You think probably a lot, actually.
I mean, I don't, again, this isn't my expertise is economics, but sure, I would assume there are a lot of senators and people in the House that actually have opposed Trump in the past that are still there. That would be my guess.
Oppose Trump in
I,
a meaningful way, like, or are you talking about just like
sure.
they said they didn't like a thing he did? Because there was like
Like,
how many Republicans were like, "Ooh, hey, those tariffs are not, don't do that." But I mean, they're not gone, right? So yeah, in that regard, sure. But in terms of like meaningful opposition, like say voting to impeach him, no, gone, wiped.